Okay, in this next example, if you look at the equation, it's actually very, very similar to the first example. But notice there's a change here, all right? We have a b value of 3. And so this is actually not going to be a circle. This is actually going to be what's called rose petals, all right? And you'll see what's going to happen. And as you see here, from 0 to pi, I already filled in these values here for you, okay? And most of these, I'm going to tell you that I'm going to provide a table, and you can simply, fill in or substitute in theta and work these out on your calculator, and you can plot those polar coordinates, all right? But for this one, what I wanted to do was, again, I wanted to make a connection to the trig graphs, and I think it'll help you to see and understand how these petals are being formed, okay? So let me take our equation, and we're going to write down the same stuff like we did in the last example with the amplitude and the vertical shift, etc. And here it is. Okay, so if you look over here on the right, I gave you all of that information. Okay, don't forget phase shift is negative c over b. The period is 2 pi over b, so in this case it's 2 pi over 3. And remember we did the count by, right? So you take the period and you divide it by 4, or you multiply by 1/4, and it simplifies to pi 6. So that's how much we're going to count by, all right? I'm also going to show you what the trig graph would look like, okay? And let me do that real quick as well. Okay, so here's my trig graph, right, over on the left. We're counting up by pi 6, and we end at 4 pi over 6, which is equivalent to 2 pi over 3. So this is one period right here, okay? And also on the right, over here, let me quickly fill in the unit circle angles as well. So there are my unit circle values, or the angles all around. We know that those angles are familiar to us, all right? And so going back here, here's what we're going to do. This is our starting point right here, right? We're starting here. I'm going to put a star. At 0, 4. At the angle 0, the r value is 4. So over here, at the angle 0, the r value is 4, so I'm going to count out 4 rings right there. And I'm going to put a star here to indicate that was our starting point, just like the trig graph. Okay? Now look, on our trig graph, at pi 6, it's at 0. So here, at pi 6, it's at 0, so we're right here. Okay, now I want you to look at, alright, this is the path we went on from what this was our starting point, here at the star, and it went to 0, so it's not going to be a straight line though, but it's going to be a curve. Okay? Now over here, what's going on? At 2 pi over 6, which is the same thing as pi thirds, right? You gotta remember that. At pi thirds, it's at negative 4. Okay? Now think about that. At pi thirds, it's negative 4. So we actually have to go the opposite way into quadrant 3. Right? So at pi thirds, it's at negative 4, so I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4. Like that. Okay? So where do we go? We went from here to here, and then now we're here to here. Okay? Going back over here to the trig graph, 3 pi over 6, we know that's the same thing as pi over 2. what's going on at pi over 2? It's at 0. So, another point here at 0. So it's not a straight line, but now it's like this. Okay. And then continuing on, 4 pi over 6, we know that's 2 pi over 3. At 2 pi over 3, the r value is 4. So at 2 pi over 3 here, it's positive 4, so we're going to stay in this quadrant. So we're going to go 4 rings out. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's coming from where? Here. Right? Remember the last point was at 0, 0? And so we're going to continue that motion. That's a terrible part of the pedal there. Okay. But here's the thing. Okay. This is incomplete. Now, even though our trig graph, we graphed one period, right? And I'm going to tell you what that period actually means, alright? But our trig graph is incomplete, okay? Right now, there's only one rose petal, and if you can tell, there's supposed to be another rose petal here, and another rose petal here. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to continue my trig graph here, okay? So I'm going to keep counting up by 6, just a little bit more. That's 5 pi over 6. That's going to be 6 pi over 6. 7 pi over 6. 8 pi over 6. Okay, and I might, we'll stop here for now, okay? So then we just continue, right? I know that if I continue this cosine curve, right, it's going to be here, and then down here, here, and here. So I graphed another period, right? Okay. So then, right here, so what's going on here? At 5 pi over 6, it's at 0, right? So at 5 pi over 6, it's at 0, so there's our other pedal right there. Right? At at 6 pi over 6, that's just pi, right? At pi, it's at -4. Now look, here's pi, but it says -4, so we actually have to plot the point in the opposite direction, and look, we're right back where we started. There's our 3 pedals. Okay? Now let me show you something real quick. Here's, I went that kind of slow. And again, if that was fast, you can obviously rewind in this video and watch that again. But here's basically what happened. Alright, I'm going to erase this. And I'm going to show you again how that worked. Okay. And I'm actually going to try, I'm going to go a little bit slow again, but I'm going to try to highlight it. Alright. Ready? So look, right here, I'm going to highlight this. I'm going to color coordinate this. This part's going to be kind of neat. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's this. Sorry, I'm a terrible drawer. Okay. Then, here we'll make this part blue. Right here. That is, where was that? That was, I need to count these out. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's this, right here. Right? I'm going to make this green. This next part is right here. That's right here, back to 0. Okay. Then I'll make this one black. I have this part here. That's here at 2/3. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's just continuing on here. Right? I'm running out of colors, so I'm going to try to find some more colors here. I don't know. Let's do this orange one. Right here. That's this part right here. And then lastly, I don't know, let's do this deep purple one here. This part here is this. Right there. Alright, so that's a connection from the trig graph to the polar graph. That's what it looks like. Now how do you know when you're done? That's why I put a star. When you get back to the point where you started, you're done. Okay? You're done. So, what does the period actually mean? Let me make this connection. Okay? Our period was 2 pi over 3, right? I'm going to focus in on, I'll make this green. I'm going to focus in, and this is where I want you to look also. I want you to look at these 3 points. The distance from here to here, that angle is 2 pi thirds. From the distance from here to here is also 2 pi thirds. And then the distance from 4 pi over 3 to here is also 2 pi thirds, right? So the period actually tells us the distance between each rose petal, right? The period tells us the distance between each rose petal. Alright, so that's what's going on. Okay, so the more we do this, and again, I know it could be a little bit confusing right now, so hopefully you're going to join in during the Google Meet. And I'll try to post maybe another video from the weekend. But that's what's going on, alright? I'm going to put a little arrow here. Alright, we started here, and we went in this direction. And it's just a continual flow, right? We know that from chapter 6, the trig graph, right, this cosine curve and a sine curve, it always keeps going, right? And what did we say? In a circle, it always keeps going in a trig graph because it represents a circular motion, right? In polar form, it represents these rose petals right here. Right, so 3 different connections there. Okay?